This is the Patriots Drive Podcast.
We are all Patriots.
Where we discuss, analyze, and answer questions to all things happening in the NFL and with our New England Patriots. Now, here's your host, Cole Kelly.
Let's go!
Welcome in to another edition of the Patriots Drive Podcast, and happy Halloween, everybody. Patriots win 27-24 on the road in SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. Big game, big win against a quality opponent. First one of the year. A lot of these games came down to the wire, and Patriots fell just short against the Cowboys, against the Bucks. A couple games like that, and everybody was saying their only win so far is against the Jets twice and the Houston Texans, which was fair. But Patriots put that to sleep and beat a quality opponent at their place, even though the stadium wasn't really an away environment. The Patriots apparently had about 60% of the fans in SoFi Stadium. So that's certainly unusual for a road game, but that stadium's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, having the Super Bowl there, whatever two teams are going there, it's going to be a really fun environment. So, but yeah, I mean, great game. Super happy about the win. Finally, quality win over a quality opponent, and hopefully this is a little stepping stone in the first step of this next series of tough games where Patriots can either set themselves up to be in a good spot coming into the playoffs or could fall just short of the playoffs. But either way, it's going to be close. It's going to be fun to watch, and it's going to be pretty exciting. But great game today. I'm here with my co-host, Jace Campbell. How's it going, Jace?
Going good. Was excited to watch New England come out and play, a good team, and they proved it. They proved to us that they can. Now, will they do it for the rest of the year? That will be, we'll have to find that one out, but they at least proved to us that they can do it for the rest of the year. So I'm excited to see where this team goes now. That's a big win on the road against a good quality opponent and a team that should not be taken lightly in the AFC. They're going to be in there for a while to come with Justin Herbert, especially this year. So good win.
Yeah, it's certainly a great win. Herbert is, he's a stud. Out of that entire draft, if you redrafted right now, Herbert might even go one over Burrow for some people. It's definitely close. Kind of a 1A, 1B thing with Burrow and then him. Both guys are extremely talented. Herbert's got a really bright future. They got a lot of really talented pieces on that offense, like we talked about all week leading up to this. I mean, Austin Eckler did his thing. Keenan Allen. Mike Williams was kind of quiet other than one or two catches. He was mostly shut down. Jared Cook had a couple catches early, but after that, not too much. And the Patriots defense did a heck of a job game planning for this team. A couple of mistakes here and there. That first drive, they kind of got just driven down the field, and that was kind of ugly. But after that, they really tuned things up and held the Chargers to 24 points total on the day. After that first drive, though, and if you take away that kind of, not Hail Mary, but that big play that they scored a touchdown on late in the game over Jalen Mills and one of our other defenders, they really only held them to two scores after that, after their first drive. So pretty impressive day by the defense overall. Pretty impressive win for this Patriots team. We knew there were some deficiencies for the Chargers defense. We knew they could attack the Chargers running the football. They kind of didn't do it that much early on, but it seemed like that second half they committed to it a little bit more, and that's when things started to pick up a little bit, and this offense started to have more success.
Yeah, and attacking them on the ground than we did. I mean, 141 yards, 3.6 a carry. The thing about the Chargers, though, is they almost ran the ball. I think they did run the ball better than us. They had 163 rushing yards. They averaged 8.2 yards per rushing attempt. That's a little high, something that I personally did not think would be the case, but it was. But New England shut down Justin Herbert, and I don't think a lot of people thought that that would happen either. A lot of people were saying that Justin Herbert's going to throw the ball over for us. And that first drive, he kind of did, and we hunkered down, and we made some plays on him. Those 2 interceptions are huge. Adrian Phillips, homecoming game. Gotta love it. He said it was a dream game for him after the fact. And I agree. It's a dream game for Patriots fans too. That was awesome to see Adrian Phillips go back and make those plays, especially the pick 6 against his former team. I just want to say I picked the score exactly. So I think that we can retire the picks, right? That's how it works. Like
exactly.
No, it's over.
Yeah,
I mean, remember how you
over.
were saying I'm not a true fan? I think you're not a true fan because you didn't know the score. Come on.
I said 30-27. It was 27-24. I was very far off. I wasn't even close.
So when they scored the last touchdown, I'm like, crap, this is like a game. And then my dad hollered up and goes, "Isn't this the score you picked?" And I'm like, oh, hey, that's kind of cool. But yeah, it got a little scary there at the end, especially if they were to recover that onside kick. But no, just a good game by the Patriots all around. Mac looked a little shaky, but, made the throws that counted and made some great throws like he has been all year. So it was a good all-around game. I still think we could have played better, but you can't complain about getting a win over a Chargers team that is 4-3, especially when you go to LA off of their bye week.
Yeah, when you texted me right after the game and you said pretty close on the score or whatever you said, I was like, wait, did I pick it exactly right? Because I couldn't remember what I picked for a score. I knew I picked a 3-point game, Pat's winning. So I was like, oh, did I pick it right? And then I went back and checked, and you said 27-24. I was like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, yeah, spot on with that prediction. I was pretty happy with both our predictions, picking a 3-point game, even though if it wasn't for the Hail Mary, it kind of wouldn't have been as close. And honestly, it felt like this game shouldn't have been as close as it was because I mean, the Patriots certainly didn't play a clean game overall. They made their fair share of mistakes, mental errors, physical errors, play calling. Just there was a bunch of little things in this game that if the Patriots played a full, complete, good game, they might have beat the Chargers by 2.5 scores. It honestly didn't feel like a 3-point game. It did feel like a close game the whole time, back and forth. But if you really look at like certain situations when the Patriots didn't execute correctly, if they clean those things up and execute correctly like they normally would and like a normal good Patriots team would, like they did last week against the Jets, it would have been a little bit of a different game. I think we probably would have put up in the mid-30s on this Chargers team. So a great win overall. That, like you were talking about, the 8 yards per carry on the run on the ground for the Chargers, I think that has a lot to do with one run for 75 yards. And then that a couple more runs, one from Eckler that was like 40, and then another 27-yard run. So they let up some big plays in the running game. Dante Hightower had a missed tackle on Jackson on that long 75-yard run. That's kind of uncharacteristic. You don't really love to see that. You don't usually see that from him. And just overall, a couple big plays they let up. But I mean, other than that, they did a pretty solid job on the defense side of the ball. It's just a couple things to clean up on offense, couple mistakes here and there on defense to clean up. But overall, you can't be too upset when they beat a good Chargers team that was 4-2 and you beat them in their place on the road.
Yeah, 4 for 12 on third down is what the Chargers went. Like that's great defense by New England. They do give up a 4th down stop, which I mean that's just a 1-yard gain. They kind of just pushed it up the field and or they pushed our interior defensive line back and got the first down. But 4 for 12 on third down, that's something that you can hang your hat on if you're Bill Belichick's defense. And then the other thing is the turnovers, right? I mean, we won the turnover battle. We talked about it. Gunnar Olszewski had some big returns, just like he did last year against these guys that set up some great field position. And although we weren't very effective in the red zone, I think we were 1 for 4. And that I think the one was obviously the Damian Harris touchdown, and then a couple field goals in there, but 1 for 4 on touchdowns there. You'd like to see a little bit more. You'd like to see at least 3, 2 at minimum 3 would be, outstanding. And then LA gets in there twice and they score twice. So a couple things that you like to clean up, but there's nothing you can complain about. Like we already said, it's nitpicky, and they're going to clean it up throughout the year. I think this is another game that could have gone both ways, but this is the ones that you got to figure out and win if you want to be a playoff team, and New England did today.
And there's not many games in the NFL, win or loss, that you can say we did everything perfect. There's nothing we could improve on. I mean, even the Jets game last week, there was a couple things that were really nitpicky, but there's still things you can improve on, things you can do better. So overall, what really matters in my mind is they came up with a win against a good team on the road. That's a great start. This team is starting to, we've seen they've had the confidence from a couple weeks into the season, and they really started to believe. And now they're showing people why they believe in themselves so much and why they think they can be a playoff team, a contender, or whatever. This football team has plenty of talent, and these pieces around it. I love the team we have. I love all the guys we got on it. I think the energy in the locker room, we got a bunch of guys who bring a lot of juice, and it's really exciting. So it's good to see these guys kind of start to put it together a little bit, build more chemistry, putting a better performance on the football field. And it's honestly really great to watch. One thing I do want to touch on real quick, because you just brought up the red zone. This is one thing that I had on my bad list, was the red zone play calling. There's no excuse on 3rd and goal at the 1 yard line. And when you're going for it on 4th down, there's no excuse to not score there, especially when they're a bad run defense and you're a good team running the football. And every time Mac QB sneaks it, you get a minimum of 2 yards with him, even if it's 3rd and 1 or 4th and 1, whatever it is, even if they expect it. The play calling, going to 2 passes back to back there on 3rd and goal and 4th and goal, was mind-boggling. They also missed a clear late hit on Mac Jones. The whistle was blown 3 seconds before, and the guy definitely heard it, still came flying around the edge and just decks Mac. It's like, okay, no call there. Also, no call on Hunter Henry, who's clearly getting held, trying to break out of his route on that 3rd and goal call. Should have been a touchdown there, but either way, you just handed it off to Damian Harris up the middle on 3rd and goal, your last possession, and it worked, got a touchdown. If you're planning on going for it on 4th down, just run it twice up the middle against a bad run defense who we've had our success against so far in the game. Just hand it up the middle or do 2 QB sneaks, whatever you got to do. It's a yard, half a yard. I think if you run it up the middle twice there or do a QB sneak and a run, whatever it is, Damian Harris with the football in his hands in that situation, even Ramondre Stevenson, a guy who we praised for being great in the red zone during the preseason. He's a touchdown machine. So one of those 2 guys, I think you give them 2 opportunities. I don't think they get stopped at the goal line there, and I think that should be a touchdown.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was mind-boggling when they didn't throw the ball, or when they didn't run the ball, they threw the ball. I was a little concerned on that. And I really haven't had too many, I don't want to say complaints, but too many bad play calls that I've seen like we had the first couple weeks. There hadn't been too many head scratchers and just blatant ones. It's like, that is horrible until that one. If you want to go for it on 4th down, I don't care if you want to throw it on 3rd down and then run it in on 4th down, or vice versa.
One of them should be.
Yeah, one of them has to be a run. So I don't know. It was interesting, and we ended up getting the win anyways. But yeah, we'd like to see Damian Harris. He has been stopped, in 3 games now, and I think we finally found a solid, capable offensive line grouping, except for maybe left tackle's been our struggle so far, but we've been able to get knocked back most of the times, and the Chargers defense is, this year has been horrible at stopping the run. I'd take our chances, getting 1 yard in 2 downs right there. So yeah, that was another one that I kind of thought too. I agree with you. I have on my bad list that one also, but we can get to that later. So
yeah, no, I mean, overall, it's kind of funny because it's like I complain about us not going for it on 4th down, and you hear a lot of complaints overall from Pats fans and just people who are watching the game in general. And then McDaniels goes, all right, here, we'll go for it on 4th down here, but we're going to give you the exact opposite of what we should do, and which not going to work. And now you guys are going to be like, oh, why did you go for it on 4th down? So it's like it's like they're trying to
mocking us.
Make fans not want them to go for it on 4th down. They're trying to get the criticism away, but it's like, I don't know, just you hand the ball off twice there. I think you get a touchdown. And then the only other play call I had a problem with was Brandon Bolden on 3rd and 1, handing it off to him in that scenario where he's not maxing on under center. He maxed in the shotgun with Brandon Bolden right next to him. And it's almost like a draw on 3rd and 1. And I think it was Derwin James just shoots the gap and just hits him for a loss of 1 or 2 in the backfield. It's just, I don't know. I don't like Brandon Bolden has been fine in the passing game the past couple games. He's had his good plays here and there, but overall, if we're gonna run the ball on third down, I don't ever want it to be with Brandon Bolden. I mean, we got Damian Harris, we got Ramondre Stevenson, even both guys had decent games. So I trust them a lot more to get that 1 yard. I even trust Mac on a QB sneak to get that 1 yard, even if it's a long one, more than Brandon Bolden on 3rd and 1.
Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson has looked more than capable this weekend. I love JJ Taylor. I think he brings a different dynamic, but I don't know why we're not just going to dress Ramondre Stevenson the rest of the way and get him used to playing. I think that he's played some great football for us. He comes in, he gives a little bit different style of running. He can break tackles like we've seen with Damian Harris, but he's a little more thumper consistently. And I don't know, I really like Ramondre Stevenson. I think that we were a little concerned with him at first after the fumble and not dressing and stuff, but I think that he has a role in this offense from here going out, and we're going to need that because we can't keep carrying or having Damian Harris carry the ball 25 plus times a game and expect him to be healthy down the stretch.
Yeah, I agree. And I like what I've seen from him as well. He's got something about him where he's a big guy, but he's a little bit shifty in the passing game where he's no James White or anything like that by any means, but he can handle his own in the passing game. He can make that first guy miss, and he's got a little bit of explosiveness to him that I didn't think he had when we drafted him coming out of the draft. When we first got him, I thought he kind of lacked that top end speed. Preseason, he did pretty solid, and he looks like he still has a little bit of that burst. That quick burst is that first step once he gets like the ball on a swing pass, screen pass, anything like that. So I like what I've seen from him. He's been solid, but just Brandon Bolden handing it off on 3rd and 1. Don't like that. Don't like passing it, especially 4th and goal. You're going to throw a fade to Jacoby Myers. Like, I know we want him to score a touchdown, but that just a fade to Jacoby. If you're going to throw a fade to anybody, how about N'Keal Harry, the biggest guy you got on the team, or maybe one of the tight ends like Jonnu Smith against the Ravens in the playoffs a couple years ago. They threw him a fade on either 3rd or 4th down in the corner of the end zone, and he caught it like one-handed over the defender. Made it, incredible catch. We got other players besides Jacoby Myers to throw a fade route to in the end zone. None of it made sense. The play call didn't make sense. Who the ball was going to didn't make sense. If it was a slant, okay, that's Jacoby Myers. That's more of his specialty. That's kind of his quick routes like that. But a fade route to Jacoby Myers just didn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, I want him to get his touchdown just as bad as all of us do. So
yeah,
I liked it when I saw it,
and
then once I saw the play and like thought about it, I was like, that was our 4th and 1 call. Like that's who we throw it to on 4th and 1. So yeah, and I like the first play. The idea of trying to get it to Hunter Henry, but it just didn't. We didn't execute it well. He kind of got held at the line of scrimmage, and so I liked the idea of that 3rd down call, but the 4th down call just kind of seemed like hey, Jacoby, we're going to give you your touchdown right here, and it's not going to work because you're haven't gotten in the touchdown end zone yet. Well, he did get a 2-point conversion today. We'll count that, right? Just kidding. No,
he's got a couple of those now on his resume. Few 2-point conversions, few touchdown passes, but no receiving touchdowns. It's crazy.
Yeah. So I like the idea of trying to get it to Hunter Henry on the 3rd down one, but the 4th down one, trying to force feed it to Jacoby Myers, who is known for I would have rather have had him to do like a different route. Like a fade is probably the last route I want him to do. I'd have rather have him run a slant, a quick out, something like that, where he can use his elusiveness and great route running. I was baffled that we ran a slant with it or a fade with him. I was like,
from the 1 yard line.
All right, Josh, there you go.
From the 1 yard line, I think I'd rather see him run a deep post into the stands than a fade route on the goal line like that. It was it made no sense to me, but
yeah, it blew my mind too.
Yeah, we'll get to this comment real quick. Justin Orhan sucks. Yeah, he's certainly up and down. Honestly, at left tackle when we had him there for Isaiah Wynn that one game, he was actually way better at left tackle than he was at right. He had a solid game. It seems like when he's in, I feel like every time he's in, I notice he's in because there's a holding penalty. He loves to hold all the time, and it has to be every touchdown we score. There has to be a holding call on it somewhere, and it's just frustrating. It's Damian Harris. His stat line wasn't great, but if you look at the 35-yard touchdown he would have had running the ball where Haran holds, and then another one where Isaiah Wynn holds at left tackle, which was a solid play for like 20 yards. Damian Harris. It's so funny. He's like he's all hyped up, and then he turns around, he's like, oh, like again after he scores the touchdown. Then he gets that big play for 20 yards. He doesn't even get excited because he turns around. He's like, I know there's got to be a holding call or something if we got this big play, because that's always how it ends up being. But just frustrating. That's one of the things that definitely needs to improve is holding and different stuff like that. You just can't have it. It doesn't make any sense. It was like 1st and 10. Okay, if you don't hold, maybe Damian Harris gets tackled and it's 2nd and 10. But now you hold and it's 1st and 20. You're behind the sticks. It just nothing's good about it. So it's just that's one of the frustrating things about this game for me.
Yeah, let's talk about this from Roondog. We talked about this a little bit in the pregame episode. Does anyone want to see a wide receiver at the trade deadline? I think this is more relevant today. Still no one over 100 yards today. But what I liked about today is everyone's just, everyone's getting theirs. Even N'Keal Harry had a good catch today, and then he had a good comeback. Mac Jones finds ways to get guys the ball. I personally, and I said this, my stance still hasn't changed, and maybe I'm in the minority. I don't think you want to trade for one either. I'd rather wait for the draft. I don't think we need to give up that much to get a top guy, Allen Robinson, OBJ. I just don't think that they're worth it in this system. I'd rather have them go get a rookie. I think there's more needs. Cornerback, maybe a pass catching running back other than Bolden, something like that. I'm not too high on the wide receiver upgrade, even after today's lack of production at that position for one guy. I just don't think we need a wide receiver one this year. We have a great group of guys that can make it happen, and it kind of makes the Patriots offense different than others where you have to worry about all 3 receivers on the field because all of them can hurt you. We don't have a true receiver number 1. You don't know who Mac's going to throw it to.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I know a lot of people, obviously, everybody would love to see a big name wide receiver here. But if you look at it from a financial standpoint and you really actually think about it, okay, we have very little money. Should we spend it on this wide receiver and be kind of screwed for cap next year? And then our defense sucks next year, or our O-line sucks because we can't sign an offensive tackle. Our cornerback position's thin. You gotta kind of balance it. Obviously, yeah, I'd love to have OBJ, Allen Robinson, Brandon Cooks all come here, and I'd love to have Gilmore back, and I mean Trayvon Diggs, or any of these guys, Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers. Let's bring them all here. That'd obviously be nice, but it's just you got a salary cap in the NFL for a reason. That's part of what makes winning a Super Bowl so hard, is not only having a good team and winning all those games, but that's part of the whole challenge of an NFL organization is building your football team and how you want to construct it. Some people want to stack the offense more than the defense. Some people want to do vice versa. So the way you put those pieces together and the money you spend at certain positions is part of what makes getting to that top level so hard, because there's so many different ways you can do it, so many different players. And if you overspend for one guy when you don't really need it, and it's not a position of need when we could really use a cornerback or something like that, it doesn't make a ton of sense. Obviously, I'd love to have any of those guys. They're all super talented players, but overall, I'd rather see us, if we're going to invest in anybody, I'd rather see us trade for Marlon Mack or a corner. And I think the Colts just cut one of their other running backs, so it looks like Mack's probably not getting traded. But I don't love spending more money at a position where we already kind of invested a lot at this offseason.
I agree. And Michael said in the comments, he's like, what was wrong with Mac Jones overthrowing 8 balls in the first half? I don't know if it was really 8 balls. It seemed like a lot. But Mac Jones, one of his worst days throwing the ball, completion percentage wise, 51.4%, a couple balls usually that you see put on guys that wasn't there. And yeah, I think I was down on Mac Jones a little bit more than I have been in the first half. But what he does so well is he forgets it. He comes on, he doesn't make worsos. He could have easily have been trying to force things down the field because he had a bad first half and thrown 2 interceptions in the second half, and we could have lost this game. But he stood in the pocket. He stepped up. He delivered good, timely passes. I was very impressed with the way he bounced back. Yes, I'd like to see him have a better first half. I was just impressed with how a young gun's bouncing back like that and continuing to carry this team into positions to win the game. A tweet said it was at least 8. So yeah, I don't doubt that. I was just saying, like, yeah, he was in 51.4%. Maybe for another rookie quarterback, people aren't overreacting about, but when Mac's the only rookie over 70% at 71%, whatever he's at, that's a big deal. 18 for 35 was a big deal today. And, we still win with that number, but we could have really dominated this game if he hits a couple more of those passes.
And it's kind of funny. We were just kind of talking about last episode, previewing this game, how Justin Herbert and Mac Jones stat lines look eerily similar, and they both throw 18 for 35, 51.4%, like exactly the same stat line, similar yards. Herbert had 5 more yards, 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. So, I mean, yardage wise and kind of completion percentage, throws, like stuff like that, they're pretty similar on the year, and it's funny. But yeah, obviously he didn't have his best game. Ups and downs. He's a rookie. I'm not upset about it. It was odd. I didn't think that was something that we'd seen from him a lot. Obviously, he's played really well so far. So it was weird to see him miss that many throws in a row. That's not something we've at all seen. But the good thing, like you just mentioned, was his ability to bounce back. He's great at that. He's great at wiping his memory, putting it in the past, and moving forward. So that's something that you got to love about this kid. Another stat real quick. Mac Jones has the 3rd most pass completions for a rookie through his first 8 games, trailing only Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert. And he has 2 more completions than Andrew Luck did his first 8 games. So good. I mean, good company. This kid, I mean, we can pull up all the stats in the world to just kind of show you the type of season this kid's having so far. He's been great. One down half, even his second half was solid. He had a really tough first half, missed a ton of throws, made that first great throw to Aguilar in that first drive. I mean, that was a dime, hit him right on the money, and then missed a couple overthrows. I also think 3 or 4 of those were intentional overthrows. They talked about it on the broadcast. They said, I wonder if that was intentional for Mac. There's no way Mac missed that throw from that close by 5-10 yards. I mean, he's throwing it out of the end zone because his guy's covered, or I think he did it a couple times. So I don't think they're all overthrows, like him trying to hit it on the money and he just overthrows it by 5 yards. I think most of them, unless it was really close, I think most of them he was trying to throw away because some of the receivers were blanketed in coverage at some points throughout the day. So I don't think it was all on him. I think sometimes the coverage was pretty good. We talked about the secondary being pretty solid, even though they were down a couple pieces throughout this game. But overall, he had a bounce back second half, and that's what you want to see from a young kid.
Yeah, I think he's throwing them away too. The last thing he wants to do is go back and explain to Bill and Josh why he was trying to force something into a window 20 yards down the field, live to play another down.
Exactly.
I guarantee Bill and them have been, drilling that in his head. So I'm encouraged by that progression. There's plenty of rookies in the league throwing multiple picks a game, and we don't have to deal with that on the average day. So it's good. I was excited with Mac, and he talked about it, right? Eerily similar with Justin Herbert, right? Like 51.4%. That it's just crazy how it worked out. The big thing is no touchdowns, no interceptions, and yeah, I would have liked to have seen him get more touchdowns. Obviously, you don't want to see him throw interceptions, but he put us in spots to win. Hits Nelson Aguilar early in the game, opens up the running game, and then it was kind of off to the races. And we were definitely more run heavy in the second half, which helped him open up things in the play action game, but then also took away a couple opportunities that he would have had if we were throwing the ball quite often. But no, he did enough to help us win this game, and that's all you can ask for from a rookie quarterback. And now it's on to who is it? It's Is it Carolina this week? Yeah. Yep. With Christian McCaffrey back and the return of Gilmore. So, get some confidence from playing a good team like this. And the big thing too, I think that we're underestimating is that the Chargers could be a wild card team. And now we have that upper hand on them. If they don't win the AFC West, say the Raiders do, or somehow the Chiefs come back, we have the upper hand on them, saying we finished with the same record because of the head-to-head battle. So this was a big win for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, and not only them, but we talked about kind of how big this stretch is going to be. We have another team that could very well be a wild card team, the Browns. We play them in 2 weeks. The Titans are probably going to win their division. The Colts, they're later in the year, a little bit, December 19th, but every one of these last games is going to matter. The Panthers, obviously, I think a lot of people are kind of underestimating the Panthers a little bit because of their struggles. But when you look back at all the games they've had McCaffrey, they haven't had these same struggles. McCaffrey makes such a difference in their offense that I think people are underestimating the impact he's going to have when he comes back. Also, they just got Gilmore back. He played today for the first time, had a game-sealing interception. That's painful. That hurts. But after the Panthers, you got the Browns. That's another team, just like the Chargers. If we win that game, that gives us the tiebreaker over them for this AFC. it seems like it's going to come down to tiebreakers at the end of the day for that last wild card spot. There's so many teams that are going to be so tight record wise, where there's a lot of 3-4 teams, 4-4, 5-4, whatever it is, where a couple games bounce couple different ways. You never know. It's going to probably come down to tiebreakers. So winning these games in conference is going to be huge. So far, the Patriots have done well in our conference. I think they're now 4-1 in the conference, right? Only loss was to the Dolphins week 1, beat the Jets twice, beat the Texans, and now the Chargers. So 4-1 in conference. That's good. Panthers, Browns, then the Falcons, Titans, Bills, Colts, Bills, Jaguars, Dolphins. So a lot of interconference games left. Colts might be a wild card team depending on if they turn it around. They probably got to do that pretty quickly if they want to make the playoffs. But yeah, it's just like you said, that's big. It's a good tiebreaker to have on a team that is probably going to be, if they don't win their division, they're most definitely, I'd say, going to be in the wild card contention.
Yeah, Sam Darnold will be having 2 Halloweens after playing the Pats next week. The boogeymen, right? They're out. They're out
Yep.
in the streets. They're out today. So that was one thing. We finally got some pressure on him, and we only have the sack total. We got 3 sacks on him. Judon had 1.5. Barmore had a half of 1, and then Lawrence Guy had 1. So we finally got pressure on him, and there was multiple ones that he was flushed out of the pocket, and it's going to be a pressure or a QB hit in the stats. We just don't have that yet, but we finally got pressure on him, and I thought that was a big key too, making him uncomfortable. And he missed a couple throws too that usually Justin Herbert wouldn't miss. And I know he's only in his sophomore season, but people hold him to a high expectation after the year he had last year and the start of this season. So he's definitely, I'd say, a top 8, maybe top 5 quarterback in this league right now. And we, made him look like he was definitely seeing things out there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's struggled against us twice so far. We beat him 45-zip last year, and he didn't struggle nearly as much this game, but you could tell he was definitely still confused. Just different stuff that the Pats were doing. They didn't really blitz him. When they did blitz him, it didn't really work out that well for us. They mixed things up with their pressure schemes and different stunts and stuff like that, and they kind of swung things, played some zone, played some man in the back end to kind of switch things up on him, and you could see it had him a little rattled. He kind of was getting the ball out a little too quickly at times. Kind of what we saw in the second half from Herbert a little bit was kind of what we saw in the first half from Mac. I think their ability to get pressure on Mac early in the game, I think, really sped up his internal clock, affected his decision-making, where he's trying to get the ball out quickly because he knows, hey, there's guys flying at me. The protection wasn't great that first half. And I think once he started to slow that down, the protection was getting a little better. Then he was hitting more of those timing routes. He was getting the ball out too early. To Hunter Henry. I think Jacoby Myers, one of them, missed him. Jacoby turned, and the ball had already kind of passed him. So a couple things like that we saw from Justin Herbert with that pick 6. That was what happened. He got the ball out a little too early. He was a little bit rattled, and Cook wasn't ready for it at that time, but Adrian Phillips saw it, and he was. So a couple things like that. It's kind of surprising, but I couldn't agree more with this comment right here. I love Matt Judon. Crazy how there are people calling him overrated when we signed him. I agree. And a lot of Ravens fans, I've seen a ton of videos just kind of now that Judon's been doing so well that Ravens fans were like, thank you, Patriots, for taking this guy off our hands. We're so glad we didn't re-sign him. It's like, I mean, so far, I got no idea why they would not want this guy. He creates havoc every game, not only in the run game, but in the pass game. He's creating pressures. And not only that, but if you look at his Instagram story from today, he just posted a video. Somebody was recording him while Adrian Phillips was getting his post-game interview because he had a great game, obviously. Matt Judon was jumping up and down, hyping him up, and just like freaking out, supporting his teammate. And I mean, that's what you love to see. This guy is available to the media every week, multiple times a week. He's always positive, always has good things to say. Seems like he gets along really well with all these guys on the defense: Jamie Collins, Van Noy, Hightower, the guys in the secondary, Jalen Mills. I mean, he's tight with everybody. He seems like a great locker room guy, and he's a great guy on the field. So I don't know what the Ravens didn't want. I don't know why they didn't want anything to do with him or didn't want him, whatever it was, but I'm certainly glad we have him because he makes a big impact on this defense.
Yeah, I remember might have been a month ago, a couple weeks ago, Donovan Mitchell, who obviously, if you don't know, I live in Utah, so I'm a Jazz fan, so I have season tickets. He tweeted out, he's like, who's this dude with the red sleeves? And then they kind of had that, back and forth, and they said they're going to jersey swap. But no, he seems like a great guy, and we saw that before the season when he was posting stuff. He was excited to be here. Kendrick Bourne was excited to be here. We're starting to see those guys start playing up to their contracts. And Matt Judon has definitely been a home run hit. I kind of relate him to the Stephon Gilmore one a couple years ago when maybe we didn't think we were going to sign him, but we did. And he's just excelled his game. And who knows if he can get to defensive player of the year standards, but 7.5 sacks in 8 games, that's already more than our leader had last year. And so he's definitely been worth it.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to touch on a couple of comments here. The fact that Judon's here for a total of 4 years is amazing. I'm so excited. That's why I was extremely thrilled when we signed him early, just because I wasn't expecting something like that. And I was like, oh my God, our pass rush was not great last year. He's going to be a big boost, not only to that, but the run game as well. So I think he's been a home run signing so far. I'm super glad we have him for long term. That's going to be great. Anytime we sign a defender like that or a big name defender, I'm not as nervous about it as I was in the past because we've seen it work out so well so many times. If Belichick's paying a guy a lot of money, it's for a reason, and he knows he's going to work out in this system. Gilmore is a great example of that. Judon looks like he's going to be another example of that. So I get excited when Bill signs these big name guys because it usually that means, hey, we know you're a great player, but we think we can take your game to an even higher level in this system, and it's great to see. He's been really impressive so far. So great to have him on this football team. Makes a big impact on the defense, like I just said. So it's going to be a fun year and hopefully a fun 4 years with him here.
Yeah, well, let's get into our good, bad, and the injured. I'm sure Judon, who we've just been talking about, is probably on at least one of ours, and a couple other guys. But Cole, I'll let you start it out. Who was the first on your good list?
I mean, this one's pretty obvious. We've kind of touched on it already, but Adrian Phillips, great game. The guy overall, he played so well for us last year, so much better than I expected him to, based off what we kind of signed him for. And he's here again this year, and he's been making an impact pretty much every game as well. You always see him pop up, passes defended or an interception. Yeah, I think you picked him to lead our team in picks this year. That's not looking too bad so far. So, I mean, it's great. It's great to see this guy stepping up, especially against his old team. I think last year he had a decent game against them as well. I feel like he had a pick on Herbert as well last year. I'm not positive. But I mean, great game by him. That's kind of an obvious one, but he was really good.
Yeah, I had him at the top of my list. I'm looking right now. Not a ton of tackles, but that's usually a good thing, right? When you're in the secondary.
Exactly.
3 tackles, 1 solo. Obviously the pick 6, which was huge, and a couple other big plays. So he was a dude, someone that I was super excited with, and we talked about a lot in the offseason, especially with the good training camp he had. And it's good to see him have one of his best games in his career, going back to the team that signed him undrafted. The other guy that I had, Matt Judon, obviously. I want to put another pass rusher on there, though, was Christian Barmore. I just can't say enough about this guy. He only had half a sack, but I guarantee he had 4 or more pressures today, multiple times. He had another big play on 3rd down today. I think it was after one of the fumble or after the Bourne fumble, or I can't remember. I'll have to get the all 22, but he's just a menace. I mean, he split the double team right at the end, had a holding call, still got the sack on that one. I mean, the way he moves for his size, he's definitely going to turn into something big. And that was our concern last year, is that we don't really have a lot of pass rush or run stopping ability in the interior defensive line. And in one draft pick, I feel like he's improved it significantly. And yeah, we need to find, we need to find more in-depth people that can keep it, because he can't play all the snaps, unfortunately. But he's someone that I'm just as excited for as Mac Jones, his progression, and to see where he gets to, even the end of this year to the start of next year. Usually that sophomore season jump is very, very good. So I'm excited to see what he brings, and he had a great game today.
Yeah, I thought he was great as well. Doug Kyde tweeted out that he had a sack, a hurry, and also that decline penalty that we saw on the sack. And I'm sure once the actual stats come out, I'm sure he'll have a couple more hurries, because he's involved all the time, and it's great to see. He's improving in the run game week to week. We see that he's made some plays back there that he didn't make in the first couple weeks, and it's great. I mean, not only is he a solid player overall, obviously, but the fact that he's so young and this is just his rookie year means we're just scratching the surface, and this kid's got a ton of potential. So knowing that we finally have a guy on the defense side of the ball that's young and is going to make an impact for years to come, it seems like we're starting to see those pieces stack up a little bit more than we were in the past. In the past, there was a lot of veteran guys that we were kind of like, okay, it's great that we have them right now, but what's the future going to look like when they're gone? And I think we kind of saw that a little bit last year. Obviously, it was a bunch of young pieces that not a lot of veteran guys, but now we see the pieces, the young pieces who are going to be a core of this football team for years to come, and it's exciting to see. So I agree. I thought he had a great game as well. Another guy I had was Gunner. I thought he was great. Something about this stadium, he performs well. He had, I mean, I think every punt return that he had went for basically 15 to 30 yards, somewhere in that range. He was really solid again today. Um, I guess he loves playing against the Chargers on the road, but he seems to be extremely effective. I don't know if it was a confidence thing for him today, but it just seems like every play, no matter what, he was catching that ball. He's like, if I get a chance to return this football, I'm going to do it because he can create a lot of explosive plays against this team. So I thought he had a great game as well, and he certainly made an impact in the field position game.
Oh yeah, our average start at one point, I'd like to see what it is at the end of the game, but we had an average start of our own 37. The Chargers were their own 20. So we had definitely been winning the field position battle. We had it past the 50 multiple times. So yeah, I agree. Gunnar Olszewski, big impact today. I'm gonna go with the running game, specifically Damian Harris, obviously, but I want to include the offensive line. I think the offensive line is what's been getting this running game going. Is finally some stability, a full week of practice with all 5 guys at one position, them starting there, no injuries, knock on wood, right? They're finally figuring out where to go, who to block. They're trusting Damian Harris to hit the hole. So the whole running game in total, Damian Harris, 23 for 80 yards, 1 touchdown, could have had 2, could have had over 100 yards again without those 2 taken away, like you mentioned. But the whole running game in general has been, a big, big reason why we have been winning these last 2 games, especially this one.
His yards per carry wasn't impressive. It was like 3 point something you said, but I think a lot of that came on that last drive where we were running the clock down and they kept stuffing us for a yard, because throughout the game, anytime Damian Harris got handed the football, it seemed like he was going for 5 to 7 yards, which was about what I expected. So I agree. I thought he had a good game. If you take away those holding calls, I mean, he has an even better game. He has probably 50 more yards and a touchdown added to that. So I thought he had a great day as well. That was impressive to me. Plus, this offensive line is still missing a guy that we'll see. Hopefully, he starts practicing this week. I don't know if he'll ever practice again, but Trent Brown, we found a good offensive line combination without him still. I don't know what his status is. There's been no updates on him. Hopefully, he'll start practicing soon and we can get him involved, because I think if Trent is healthy, this offensive line is going to be really, really impressive. And I think it's going to be a lot more of what we expected it to be early in the year. Obviously, Owenu was having his games at right tackle. He's been playing well. Honestly, if Isaiah Wynn continues to struggle like this and continues to not play at the level that he's been playing the past couple of years, I could see them saying, "Hey, we're gonna give Trent Brown a shot at left tackle on when he's playing great at right tackle, and Ted Karras is playing great at left guard." So I could see them testing out a combination like that. Maybe they won't actually go for it just because, I mean, they kind of put some stock into Isaiah Wynn with giving him his 5th-year option for next year. So they obviously want to show confidence in him and want him to keep improving and doing better. But I think our best 5, once Trent Brown's healthy, might actually be Trent Brown at left tackle and Onwenu at right tackle, and sticking with the same other 4 that we have right now, just swapping out Trent Brown for Isaiah Wynn, because he's had his struggles. A couple holding calls. Last game, he was getting beat off the edge. I think Trent Brown being healthy is going to give another boost to this offensive line that's looked pretty successful the past couple games.
Yeah, I said it last week, and I really think that that when Trent Brown comes back, that we need to try him at left tackle. And I agree with you where you want to see Isaiah Wynn come out of it, but he's getting pulled for Justin Herron game after game, and it's just for a couple snaps, but he's getting pulled for him, and it's just concerning. I think that Michael Winu is a very, very capable right tackle, and he's played some of his best ball there. When we won the Super Bowl in 2018 with Trent Brown on our team, he took 1,336 of his 1,439 snaps from the left tackle position, and he was great. So I don't know. I'm all on board at keeping Ted Karras there at left guard. And if they want to keep stock in Isaiah Wynn had experience playing left guard at Georgia in college. It was before his senior year. So when he was, a sophomore, but he's a little bit undersized. I'm pretty sure he's only 6'2". So he has the size to play out there. And I don't know. I'm for moving Trent Brown to left tackle. That's if he comes out and does something and plays. But if he comes back, I am totally set with putting him there. And because that's the left tackle's been, the worries right now. That's been the spot that's been giving us hassle.
Yeah, I'm honestly not concerned with Onwenu at right tackle. He did his job against Joey Bosa today. He was obviously a factor a little bit in putting some pressure on Mac, making him step up a couple times, but he's consistently at that right tackle position. He's held his own against some of the best in the game. He's a really solid right tackle. I don't really have much concerns. He'll obviously let up a play here and there. Everybody gets beat. It happens. But when somebody good lines up against Isaiah Wynn at left tackle, I'm extremely concerned because you never know what you're going to get from him. He's up, he's down, he's up, he's down. When you're getting constantly subbed out, multiple times throughout a game for Justin Herron, that's not great. You're a first-round pick at left tackle, and you're getting subbed out for that guy who hasn't really been that great. At left tackle, he's had his moments where he looks just as good as Isaiah Wynn, which is sad to say because Isaiah Wynn's not playing great right now. So I think Isaiah Wynn at the top of his game and Justin Herron at the top of his game is no comparison. Isaiah Wynn is a much better tackle. But right now, he's not playing at that level, so it's hard to really you got to think about, okay, yeah, we want to have this kid for the future. We want him to be our long-term left tackle, but overall his health and his inconsistency of play has been a problem. This year his health has been good so far, obviously, knock on wood, besides the COVID issue, but just he's been so inconsistent. He hasn't had a good year so far, and I'm not really sure what the deal is. I don't know if they're truly missing Scarnecchia already, but he's got to figure out something because otherwise he might get his job taken from him pretty quickly with either Justin Herron or if Trent Brown comes back.
Yeah, and right now, Ted Karras, although he's only played 220 offensive snaps, he has the highest graded pass blocking grade on Pro Football Focus. And if you scroll down all the way to the bottom, you have Justin Herron at 18. He has a 35.8 passing grade. That's what they gave him. And Isaiah Wynn has a 67.5. So neither of them, obviously Justin Herron's is way worse, but I agree with you. If Isaiah Wynn
just at left tackle, or is that both?
That's both.
Okay.
So if that were to be, and then obviously I want to get into this run blocking grades. Michael Onwenu, this is right guard and right tackle or wherever he's played. 93% or 93 grade run blocking. He's been a menace run blocking. Shaq Mason, Ted Karras come in next, 73.9 and 72. And then David Andrews. But when you scroll down, Isaiah Wynn and either Yadni Kajus or Justin Herron are both 17, 18, 19, and they're both gray now in the 60s. So, yeah, that left tackle position, whoever they put there, or right tackle, has been a struggle, and we need to figure that one out. But Isaiah Wynn hopefully can come out of his mold. I just don't see it happening if it hasn't happened now. And if Trent Brown's the answer there, put him in there.
Yeah, I think if you could specify it to just left tackle, I think Herron's numbers in both passing and run blocking grade would be much better because it seems like from the eye test, he's played a lot better at left tackle than what he was playing at right tackle. He really struggled at right tackle. But Onwenu's been amazing. I think PFF grade wise, I think he's one of the top 2 or 3. I think he might have even been the top, as of last week, top graded second-year player via PFF. So he's been impressive. PFF loved him last year. He was, I think, one of the highest graded players his rookie year. People were legitimately talking about him possibly getting rookie of the year, that he should at least be in the conversation just because of how good he was. Obviously, that's not going to happen when you got guys like Justin Jefferson and Justin Herbert and all these different guys putting up insane numbers. But he was great. He was overall one of the best players at the position that year. And for him to be a rookie was really impressive. So that's a good sign. The left tackle has been a question mark, and that's something that we definitely got to get figured out if we want to keep being competitive with these good football teams and make a playoff run.
Yeah, so I was just going to read this off real quick. His run blocking grade is 4th right now. Trent Williams is 1 at 95.1. Jason Kelsey and Zach Martin are tied at 2, 93.4, and then Michael Onwenu's at 93. So, yeah, he's top 4 up there according to Pro Football Focus. Where he really excels is in the zone blocking, which you're going to see a lot of New England's runs coming out of zone blocking, or out of gap scheme. Sorry, that he's running a lot more gap scheme. 57% of the time he's pulling or blocking down on a gap scheme, and then 21% of them is zone blocking. Then the other ones are other ways. But he's grading out 92.7 in zone blocking schemes and 89.8% in gap schemes where he's pulling or having to run power counter or something. So I don't know. He's a top 4 guy in Pro Football Focus. I've loved him at right tackle. I think that he's capable of playing right guard, but the most success we've seen from him has been at the tackle position.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I just want our best 5 up there. Whatever the best combination is, I don't care. And I think that's usually what we've seen from Belichick. So it'll be interesting to see if he keeps it consistent, because usually he doesn't care what your name is. If you're not performing, you're on the bench. Whoever is going to give us the best chance to win on Sundays is going to be who's out there playing. So it'll be interesting to see how he approaches this once Trent Brown becomes healthy. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But it's good to know that we have other options, and we got a guy like Onwenu who's so versatile that can play guard and tackle so well, and we got a guy like Trent Brown who can play both sides at the tackle position as long as he decides to play on the football field. So, you got anything else you want to touch on the O-line before I continue with the good?
No, I don't.
My next guy I had was Miles Bryant. We talked about him a couple games in a row now. He's not making any crazy interceptions or super flashy plays, but I don't see his number. I don't see the back of his jersey very often, and I don't see his name getting called or anything like that often, unless it's a pass breakup. He made 2 really nice plays today, breaking up I think one ball on, or maybe they both were on Keenan Allen. I think they might have both been on Keenan Allen. But he timed it perfect. As soon as Keenan Allen caught that football, as soon as the ball hit his hands, he had his helmet right on that football and knocked it loose. And it was a big key 3rd down, I believe. So he's turning into a solid player so far. He's been a solid replacement. We haven't noticed a ton the loss of Jonathan Jones yet. I'm sure that's going to come. I'm sure adding another corner would certainly still be nice, but he's showed some promise for a guy that was on the practice squad and wasn't playing consistently. He's getting some minutes, and he's getting some trust in coverage and different blitzing and stuff like that for his size. And he's been holding up. He's been putting up a hell of a fight.
Yeah, I agree. The one that I'd like to see also in the cornerback room still hasn't played yet, was inactive today, Shaun Wade. But with the way that Miles Bryant has been playing, Shaun Wade might not get a chance, or they might have to throw him in at one point because they're so low, or so they don't have that much depth. But yeah, Miles Bryant playing good's a good sign for us. He's someone that we need to step up with the absences of Gilmore not being there and Jonathan Jones being on our IR. We need him to step up and play some slot corner and play some effective reps. So it's always good to see him doing that. The last one that I have, it was mentioned in the comments up here. It says the last drive by Mac was Brady-like, and it wasn't even Mac. Like, Mac had some great throws, but 14 plays, 54 yards, almost 7 minutes, 6 minutes and 6 minutes and 56 seconds. And he starts off with a pass to Nelson Aguilar and then to Jacoby Myers. But after that, it was just Stevenson, even Mac Jones ran it, Damian Harris, guys like that. And yeah, we didn't score a touchdown, but we got a field goal, and that's what extended it to a 2-possession game. That was a masterclass right there, and it made the Chargers have to force it down the field, and they still scored. But I was very impressed with the last drive that we had, showing the ability to, when they know we're going to run, they still can't stop us. And we were able to take off nearly 7 minutes and pretty much ice the game at that point. So that last drive to get a field goal was very, very good to see. Yeah.
And overall, they stopped us a couple times for 1 yard, but that's because they were selling out for the run and we still were getting a yard. But just the execution on that drive, I agree with that comment, was obviously we've seen it a million times from Brady. With a lead, you need to ice the game. We saw it in Super Bowl 53 against the Rams. Sony Michel had a couple great runs and got the first downs we needed to run the clock down, kick the field goal, and then we ended up winning the game. So I'm really excited with the promise of this kid. We've obviously talked about it a million times, but even if he struggled in the first half, when the game was on the line and when it counted the most, he made the throws he needed to make. The wide receivers made the plays they needed to make. And how about the execution by not only Mac, the wide receivers, Damian Harris as well? When Mac threw the football, and it was towards the sideline, how about the receivers catching it and making sure they're still staying in bounds, even if they're going to be 1 or 2 yards shorter than they would have been going out of bounds? Even with 8 minutes left in the game, these guys were sliding on the ground, getting down, making sure they were in bounds and moving the chains. Just great overall football IQ by all these guys. It's obvious that it's been drilled into them. Obviously, we had one turnover on the offensive side of the ball. We had a fumble by Kendrick Bourne, and then he kind of was in the doghouse the rest of the game. We didn't see him much after that, but just I thought overall, I agree with you there. Mac, great execution, running game, running backs, wide receivers, all great execution to run crisp routes, catch the football, and stay in bounds to keep the clock moving. I thought that was really good. So that was something that I would have on my good list as well. And then last thing I had on my good list was Nick Folk. He was great. He's been solid for us all year. Didn't miss any kicks or extra points this week, and in a game like that's huge. So I had to throw him an honorable mention on my good list there because he's doing his job.
Mr. Consistent, right? If only he would have made the kick against Tampa Bay, then he'd be super good. I'm just kidding. That's
this is such a tough situation, though. Yeah. I still don't love that we threw him in that situation. I do want to touch on this real quick, actually. If this were not just good, bad, injured, and this was like ups and downs, N'Keal did look better this week. I think that was also increased snaps because Kendrick Bourne made that mistake and he was out. But I did want to give N'Keal his credit that this week he had a couple nice routes. That comeback route was nice. Made the catch, made a tough catch, kind of boxed out the corner on that play early in the game. So he did make a couple nice catches. It's kind of sad that 2 catches and like 30 yards from a first round pick is what we consider a great game from him. But I would say he's up from last week and from the past couple weeks. He had a decent game.
Yeah, when you have AJ Brown going for 10 and like 140 yards and a touchdown, but our good first round pick was oh well, it's okay. Let's get on to the bad. You hit on this just barely. He was in the doghouse. Kendrick Bourne. He had a couple good catches early. He should have had a touchdown. Looked like he either slipped or just didn't have the right balance to catch that one. Honestly, kind of lucky it wasn't an interception.
Oh my, yes, I remember what you're talking about. Yeah, right through his hands.
Yeah, right through his hands in the end zone, and then he has the fumble, obviously, and we didn't see him much after. But the fumbles, I think I saw a thing that the Chiefs, that we have lost 8 this year. The Chiefs have lost 9. We lost 5 all of last year. So the fumbles are already a big thing. Obviously, we remember the Saints game, the Houston game. We still won that one, but we had one in the end zone by Damian Harris. The Dolphins game stands out. So fumbles have been a big issue, and nothing's going to get you in the doghouse faster with Bill than fumbles. So Kendrick Bourne's going to get on my bad list there. I still think he was, productive when he was in, but when you have 2 mistakes like that one could have turned into a turnover and one was a turnover, you got to clean it up.
The fact that the Dolphins only win this year is against us, that game makes me so mad. I mean, yeah, I the only good part is that their pick. Oh, actually no, because their first round pick goes to the Eagles this year, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it doesn't even matter what they finish this year.
Yeah. I mean, the Eagles could get 2 top 5 picks depending on how they end up because Miami doesn't look too good. But no, like you mentioned, like if we win that game and we're sitting 5-3 right now, everyone's feeling a lot. Well, not that Patriots fans are feeling bad about ourselves after the 2 games we just played, but if our record's 5-3 and our only losses are to the Saints, the Bucks, and the Cowboys, we're like in prime. Like we are in a good position now. It's like we're going to have to win a couple games like we just did against the Chargers to get in, but it's still doable. If we have that one win against the Dolphins week 1, it's like, oh yeah, we're sitting pretty.
And I hate to play the look back game and say, oh, if this happened, then this, but it's tough not to think about that when you think if we won that football game, we're sitting at 5-3, the Bills are 5-2.
Yep.
We're competing for the division at this point with a quality win over the Chargers and 2 really tough games against the Cowboys and Bucks. I think the stance on this football team would be a heck of a lot different than it is right now. And I think this win definitely shows a lot to a lot of different people, but I think there's a lot of people who still doubt this football team. Stephen A. Smith was talking about the other day how he doesn't think this team has a chance of making the playoffs. Doesn't think they'll do it. I think if this team is at 5-3 instead of 4-4 right now, I think a lot of people in sports media in general would be looking at this team a little bit different. 5-3 with the Bills being 5-2 with still 2 games against the Bills. You're really talking about this team could win the division. So this is a big win, and people don't. I mean, it's one game, it's one win. Maybe the Chargers had a down day, but it's a quality win against a quality team, the first one of the year, and it really shows you the potential this football team has. If they can just grind out these tough wins and end up on the winning side of these tough football games, even if it's not perfect, even if it's not pretty, if you can come out and win the football games and win the close ones, you're gonna have a chance against anybody, and you're gonna have a chance to make a playoff run and a Super Bowl run if you're really solid.
Yeah, let's answer this question by Michael. Sorry, Michael. I was going to get to it, and then we got into something else. Yes, I might be jumping the gun, but do you think we win a Super Bowl with Josh Allen, Brady, Mahomes, Lamar still in the league? This is kind of a loaded question because Brady, probably 2, maybe 3 more years, who knows? But Allen, Mahomes, and Lamar
Brady's
are
got 10 more years. He's going to play till he's 75
You're
years
right.
old.
You're right. He's probably going to retire he's Allen, Brady, or Allen, Mahomes, and Lamar might retire before Brady. But anyways, Allen, Mahomes, and Lamar are in the league for, like, you talk about 10 more years. It's going to be 10, 12 more years of those guys. So yeah, I think that this is a loaded question, but Cole, I want to know what you think.
I'm gonna this is a little biased, obviously, but I'm gonna say yeah. I think overall, especially those two guys that are mentioned in this comment, just got their big contracts. So their Super Bowl window, their prime Super Bowl window is closing pretty quickly. Mahomes, I think his cap hit starts to really rise next year, the year after, stuff like that. They don't even have him on his like large cap hit numbers right now. Josh Allen, they'll probably have 1, maybe 2 more years of him on a pretty low cap number, especially for his production. But we got this year and 3 to 4 more years at least of Mac Jones on his rookie deal. I think Belichick is going to be able to improve this team. I think Mac's going to keep getting better. I think the offense is going to get more comfortable. I think the defense is going to get more comfortable. The longer these players are in the Patriots system, the better this team's going to be. And I think with the cap space, we'll have a little bit next year. We'll obviously be missing some pieces. We'll need to build on that, but I trust this organization too much, and I've seen too much success over the last 2 decades that to doubt what they can do. I think even with these guys in the league, I trust Bill Belichick. I trust this Patriots team, and I really like what I've seen from Mac so far. So I think there's no reason why 2-3 years from now we can't be in real contention for a Super Bowl. And I mean, hey, it's in this league, it's any given Sunday. You never know what's going to happen. I have no doubt in my mind that this Patriots organization can pull another Super Bowl together in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the Super Bowl window thing is a very real discussion. Like, look at the Chiefs right now, and Mahomes' contract is only going to get more and more and more. And the Chiefs, there's a lot of things factoring in, but when Tyreek Hill hits the books and Travis Kelce and them, once they're due for contracts also, and they don't get the type of money that they expect they should, or maybe they do, but then you're talking about now Kansas City has to fill 20 roster spots with minimum contracts because they can't afford, good role players, and then injuries come into play. So I agree. I think that New England's going to have a chance, and it's going to be tough with guys like that because they're all in the AFC. So it's going to be a tough road, but I like what Mac Jones is doing. I like, as long as we have Bill Belichick on our team, I don't think anything's possible. I think that he can rebuild this team and get them into a spot where we can be at least in competition for one in the next couple of years. Like you said, I don't know about winning one. I don't want to be, sound like a true homer and jump the gun like you said.
Hey, it's
like
just another example of just no confidence in this team. I mean, this is 2
You
episodes
said
in
it
a row. This
first.
is ridiculous. Oh, come on. Hey, I said we're going to win the Super Bowl in the next 3 to 5 years. I got confidence in us.
I wouldn't have watched this game if my boy Austin Eckler didn't suit up. So
that's what I figured. I mean, that's what I
here.
figured. I know you have your Austin Eckler jersey on under that, and that you put the Pats jersey on once we won that game. I know that's how it went. But just to jump in real quick, Patrick Mahomes' cap hit this year is $7.5 million. Next year, that jumps to $36 million. That's a huge hit. They got $18 million less to work with in cap space. That's a top tier receiver, a top tier tight end, a top tier corner, whatever you want to be. That's a really good player, and that's just Mahomes. So then go to Josh Allen. His cap hit this year's $10 million, next year $16 million, and then 2023 that jumps to $40 million. So, I mean, that's what you're seeing around the league with these guys who are really impressive. Their contracts are just shooting up. Dak Prescott, $17 million this year, jumps to $35 million next year. The year after that jumps to $45 million, then $48 million. These guys are on some big contracts. Not only that, but Lamar's going to get his money this offseason probably. You got Justin Herbert, who's obviously this is only his second year, but he's an elite quarterback. There's a ton of really talented players in this league, but overall, it's not all about one talented player, and we've seen that. You can't do it with just an elite quarterback. Obviously, that helps, and if you have an elite quarterback, you always have a chance. but we saw it last year. Patrick Mahomes couldn't carry that Chiefs offense when he's getting blitzed and running for his life out there. It doesn't matter. You got to have some pieces around him. And I think that Mac Jones isn't going to be in that top tier elite quarterback category, but I think he's in that tier where he can be a good enough quarterback for the right price where we can build around him with the right pieces and contend for a Super Bowl, certainly.
Yeah. Cole, do you have any idea of what we will have in cap space after this season? What I'm looking at, I don't know if this is accurate. It says we're going to have 26 million after next season. Obviously, we have some within the organization things to sign, JC Jackson, guys like that. So it's not going to be a spending frenzy like we saw this year outside of the league. But we're going to have not a substantial, but a good amount to at least get some pieces to help our team if that 26 million is the correct number.
Yeah, just under $27 million in team cap space, it says, for next year. We got a lot of free agents, though. I believe Devin McCourty, off the top of my head, I think Devin McCourty, Dante Hightower, JC Jackson, Jawan Bentley, Trent Brown. That's quite a few key players right there. So I'm sure there's some other guys in there that I'm missing, obviously, but there's a lot of main pieces there that I think the offseason is going to be more about replacing those guys than adding any new crazy additions. So, but I don't see any reason why this same football team with maybe a couple slight upgrades in the secondary and stuff like that, I don't see why this football team can't be in a deeper playoff run contention next year. I honestly think the reason this team hasn't been at the level we want it to be is because of the chemistry. We saw it last year with the Bucs. They played, if they play that Super Bowl game week 1 compared to the week they played it, it's two completely different outcomes. The fact that they built that chemistry with a new quarterback, new offense, all this different stuff, it takes time. So I think this team, if you look at this team week 1 of this season and week 1 of next season, I think it's going to be a completely different story. I think the team's going to have a lot more chemistry built together. And I think some of the pieces are definitely going to need to be replaced, definitely going to need to make some additions at some key spots because we're going to be losing some guys, but we'll have John Jones back off injury, and James White's another free agent. I don't know if we'll bring him back because we barely brought him back this year. So there's going to be a fair share of players we need to replace and address different positions, but there's always ways to manipulate the cap. You never know how much is going to go up, but projected right now is $27 million in cap space.
Yeah, there's some big name guys also that you didn't mention. Jawan Bentley, you said Gunner's going to be one. Who knows what we do there? Jacoby Myers is going to be one. He's only making $500,000 right now. You would think that New England keeps him, and it's not going to be $500,000 a year. I can guarantee you that. You know, it's going to be up there. Ted Karras, Matthew Slater, guys that are a little up there in age, but, you know, play good roles on this team. So, yeah, we're going to have some re-signing to do within our organization, and that kind of takes precedence, in my opinion, keeping that same team together and, you know, building off of the good year that we're going to have this year, because I'm calling it, we're going to have a good year. The rest of the year, we're going to finish strong. But Michael, we'll come back to your question, but let's get back into one or two more bads. Cole, do you have a bad that you have or someone on your list?
So this will kind of be quick because we already touched on it a little bit, but it wasn't a person. It was just red zone calls and then penalties overall, key penalties in key situations. That's 2 weeks in a row, or maybe 3 weeks in a row, that we've had a holding call back a touchdown. And it's just, can't have it happen. You can't do it. It doesn't make any sense. It's not good for the football team. So just holding calls and a couple poor red zone calls. That was on my bad list.
Yeah. 4 penalties, 30 yards. But when you look at it, one of those
situations.
One key situations, and they don't count that Damian Harris ran 30 yards for a touchdown. They just count, that's a 10-yard penalty because it was holding. That was really a 30-yard penalty taken back 10 yards. That was a 40-yard penalty right there.
Exactly.
So, I mean, a lot more yards in holding plus that other run. So, yeah, penalties were bad. For me, I already hit on it too. It's red zone scoring, and you get the win, so you feel a little bit better about it. But this is another one of those key games where if we lose and we're sitting here looking, oh my gosh, we kicked 3 field goals in the red zone and we got stopped on a 4th and 1 or 4th and goal because we threw a fade route, then you're, saying that sucks, and it still sucks, but you get the win. So you kind of overlook it a little bit. You got to continue to get better on that one.
Yeah. If we lost this football game, it'd be a lot more intense version of myself right now, complaining about the red zone calls and the penalties in general. It's just, You can't have it happen, but you live with it when you win the football game. But honestly, somebody mentioned it earlier in the episode, and we touched on it earlier in the episode as well. This game shouldn't have been as close as it was if the Patriots executed perfectly. But obviously, you could say if the Chargers executed perfectly, they wouldn't have thrown 2 picks, all this stuff. But if the Patriots make some not too tough, critical play calls and critical plays that they should make on a weekly basis, I think this game is at least 35-20 or whatever, 24, whatever it was. I think it's a different ball game. So that was kind of really the only things I had bad necessarily. I didn't think anybody else really stood out as being horrible. Jalen Mills, that last play was bad. He wasn't great on that last drive. But overall, when you got Keenan Allen and Mike Williams kind of being held in check for the most part, obviously Keenan Allen did better than Mike Williams, but I was happy with what our secondary did, especially with the multiple different guys they have who are dangerous and Austin Eckler out of the backfield.
Yeah, and you get 2 interceptions. That's
Yeah.
big time right there.
Yep.
You can't complain about anything like that. So that was about it for my bad list. Did you have anything else?
Nope, that was it.
Okay, then let's finish up here before we answer a couple more questions before we get off. But what about the injury report? Don't remember too many guys going out. So I think that we're pretty clean on that one, which is always good.
I can't think of any off the top of my head, to be honest with you. I know they had a couple guys. I know there are a couple corners and linebacker, running back. They had a few guys go down, which is always tough to see, but a couple of them ended up playing in the game, so that's good. Hopefully nothing too serious for any of their guys. Jameis Winston possibly tore his ACL today against the Bucs. That's tough to see. You hate to see that. It didn't look pretty. Been some tough injuries around the league recently, so you hate to see it. It's always good when you can come out of a football game with no extra injuries than you came into the game with. Obviously, we had a couple guys nursing some things. Kendrick Bourne almost didn't play. Well, he was questionable to play. He ended up playing, obviously. Jonnu Smith, some people thought he might not even travel. He ended up playing. But overall, can't complain too much. For the most part, clean bill of health as far as I've seen. I haven't seen any major things come out, so that's always good.
Yeah, that's good. Keep our injury report minimal, especially when we are going a couple more games until our bye week. Got to stay healthy until then. But let's answer this question, and then we'll end it up unless there's any more that come through the chat. But do you guys think we draft a wide receiver or cornerback in the first round? Personally, I want a wide receiver.
For me, I'd prefer. Obviously, I'd love to get a wide receiver, but I'd prefer a corner just because. If you look at the corner situation, we just touched on cap space, $27 million in cap space. Okay. JC Jackson, he's going to demand. What do you think JC Jackson asked for at like 13 to 16 mil a year annually, probably?
Yeah.
In that range.
I was going to say above what Gilmore was making this year, which obviously I think he gets more than that. But I say that's like a minimum, and I don't think that's very realistic. I'd say, 11, 12, 13 double digits for sure.
Yeah, so low double digits probably for JC Jackson. If we re-sign him, if we re-sign him for that price, we got mid-teens for cap space left. If we draft a corner and we got JC Jackson, a first-round corner, and Jonathan Jones, that secondary you feel pretty confident about, and that addresses kind of one big hole on the team. If you draft a wide receiver, we're still going to have a hole at offensive tackle, at cornerback, different positions of secondary, middle linebacker. There's plenty of other spots that I think we need more than a wide receiver. I think next year, obviously, linebacker, we're going to need a free safety, going to need a cornerback, possibly offensive tackle. I know everybody wants a big name wide receiver, but I don't think it's that much of an issue. I honestly don't. I think our wide receivers have been absolutely fine, especially with the tight ends once they keep building chemistry and get used to this offense and everybody's firing on all cylinders. I think our offense is going to be fine. We got a solid running game, solid offensive line, solid tight ends, and decent receivers who are capable of doing their jobs on a weekly basis. So we haven't seen a full game where it's like, oh my goodness, these wide receivers can't create any separation. They're the reason we're losing this game. I haven't seen that so far, personally. This game was probably the most clamped up I've seen them so far this year, but they still managed to have plenty of production. If Mac makes a couple more throws, it's a different game, and I'm not concerned about it. So wide receiver, obviously I'd love to add one at some point, but I don't think that should be our top priority.
I just want best available in my opinion, whether it's a cornerback, whether maybe it is a receiver, maybe we have a Garrett Wilson or someone fall to us.
If somebody falls right into our lap that shouldn't be there, that's a different story. But go ahead.
I think that it's going to be, we're drafting mid to early 20s, maybe late teens, if who knows. But I think that it's going to be best available. That seems what Bill likes to do, and maybe it's a trade down if the board's right. So I'm going to go. I'm going to go with best available. I think that that's going to be corner. I think that there's a lot of good corners in this draft between Ahmad Gardner, Khair Elam, Derek Stingley. We'll never have a chance to get him out of LSU, but there's going to be guys. I think that there's also guys in the second round that we can get at receiver if that is the route that we decide to take. There's going to be their top guys: Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, but Treylon Burks. I mentioned this last episode: John Minchie, Jamison Williams, guys like that from Alabama that Mac Jones is comfortable with. If we can get them in the second round, I'd much rather address a cornerback in the first round and go that way. We all know Bill likes to take corners and build from the secondary up, so it wouldn't surprise me if we do go corner. So I agree. I'd love to go receiver. It's the flashy pick, but we haven't had much success drafting first round receivers lately. So maybe we find a gem in the second, third round like DK Metcalf, AJ Brown were.
Oh, that'd be sweet. Yeah, I agree with you there. If somebody falls into your lap, that's a different story. But I don't really think cornerback with Poole. Don't really think we need a cornerback with Poole and when Wade comes back. Well, we're talking about next year in the draft, not necessarily this year. But I mean, those guys aren't top talents. It's not like those guys are real difference makers. There's a reason that Poole was unemployed. He didn't have a job until recently, and he had no opportunities to sign on an active roster. Otherwise, he wouldn't be on our practice squad right now. So I think they obviously help the depth and help fill a little bit of a need. But I still think that if we can add a top corner next year, especially if they decide to not re-sign JC Jackson, then we absolutely need to take a corner in the first round or get a corner in free agency somehow, whatever we got to do. But regardless, next year, I think this team, if we add a corner, is going to be even more improved. And that's really the only thing this defense is lacking. If this defense had a Gilmore or another elite corner, or at least a top 20, top 15 corner, along with JC Jackson and Jonathan Jones, this defense is scary. It would be probably top 3 in the league, and it's already really solid with the guys we have at those positions. But adding another corner, especially in Bill's system, when you got a true lockdown number 1 corner, and then you got other pieces around that can match well, that makes the defense even more elite. So if we have a defense that scary, along with an offense that's continuing to build chemistry, and we got all these guys on multiple year contracts, I think that's going to be a recipe for success.
I agree. Well, unless anyone else has anything, I am very excited about this win. On to Carolina, though. No time. I mean, obviously we can celebrate and be happy about this, but Bill's going to say it. On to Carolina, right? Got a big win. They're finally coming off of a win after 4 straight losses, and it's return playing his old team. Stephon Gilmore, Christian McCaffrey will probably be back. So good win by New England, beating LA in LA 27-24. But Cole, you got anything else before we sign off?
I got a couple things. 3-0
on the road.
White uniforms. 3-0 in the white uniforms. Do we start wearing them every game? I mean, if we play the Browns at home in a couple weeks, do we wear the white uniforms?
No, the only answer is to cancel all of our home games and play on the road, and supply free tickets for anyone that wants to go.
All right. I like that too. That works as well.
Because we're still undefeated on the road, right?
Yep. 4-0 on the road.
4-0. No, 3-0 because we have one home win. 3-0. And we're 1-4 at home.
Didn't we wear our blue jerseys on a road game this year? I could have sworn we wore our blue uniforms. I thought that was a thing. Oh, week 2 against the Jets, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because they wore white, right?
I think they did. Yeah, because I remember Zach Wilson in it. Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So on the road, undefeated this year. Tough game against the Panthers next week. I'm excited for, obviously this is in the future, but I'm excited for the draft and all that stuff. I think we're gonna have some fun on the podcast, breaking down some mock drafts and doing all that stuff. I think we'll have plenty of mock drafts, plenty of position breakdowns and talk like that, especially you watch college football a lot more than I do, but during that time of the year, I'll be watching more stuff and kind of breaking down some players' film from the past year. So I'm excited. I think that's going to be fun as well. One last thing. 63% of fans at SoFi were New England. That was crazy considering they came from Mass to LA. Yeah, and I don't even think it's all from Mass to LA. We talked about it last episode. I think Patriots fans are all over the nation. I don't think it's just in the New England area. I don't live in Mass. I live in Maine. Jace, you don't live in Mass either, Utah. So that's close to SoFi. So I think Pats fans usually travel pretty well, but also not just traveling pretty well. They also are kind of everywhere across the United States and the world. So it's just really, really great fan base. And it just shows the commitment that these fans have to, take up 63% of a stadium that's in California. That's, across the entire country away from where you play usually. So that was awesome to see. I love the support that New England fans, Boston fans bring. Not just Patriots, Red Sox, that this playoff run, the stands were going absolutely nuts. It was super fun to watch, and we truly do have the best fans in the world. And I consider myself lucky to be a fan of all these different Boston and New England sports teams.
Gillette of the West. Maybe we chalk that one up as a home win since they had no home field advantage. No,
yep, kidding. Exactly. Second home win of the year right there in California. That's a good one.
Yep. No, good game. Excited to get a win. Finally at 500 since 0-0, since we were 0-0.
Yep.
So,
that's good. Tough game next week against the Panthers. I think people. I'll be interested to see what the spread is. I think people, like I said, are going to underestimate this Panthers team a little bit. They're getting probably McCaffrey back this week. They got Gilmore back. It's just going to be another week in the system for them. I don't think it's going to be as easy as people think. I think it is going to be a tough game. I think there's no reason we can't win this football game. We just beat a Chargers team that I'd say is definitely better than the Panthers, and we've shown what we can do when we play a good football game, and we seem to match up well. We seem to play well with just about any team. I see this team hopefully building off it and putting up a good performance against the Panthers next week. And then after that is the Browns. That's going to be another tough one, but that's back at home. So 1 week at a time, on to the Panthers. Should be a good one, though. You got anything else?
Nope, I'm good. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Cole will be traveling on Thursday, so we'll be doing our pregame episode for the Panthers on Wednesday, right?
Yes. Yep. I believe. Yep.
And then we'll take a little break because Cole will be on vacation. Maybe do something on his Instagram page, just something short, but plan on no post-game episode for the Panthers after we beat them by 20, just because we don't want to come on and talk about a butt whooping. So it's not good. So we'll give it a break, but no, tune into the pregame episode for Carolina on Wednesday. That's all I got.
Yep. We might do something like Jace just mentioned post-game after the Panthers game. We might do like a little Instagram live for like 10-15 minutes, answer any questions you guys have or anything you guys want to talk about. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in again. Appreciate all the support. Keep dropping in, asking your questions, commenting on different stuff, what you thought on the game. But it's great to see this Patriots team feel like they're starting to get on track and be more like the Patriots we know of the past. And this is one building block on hopefully a few different steps the next couple weeks of this football team really figuring out what they're going to be and being in contention for a playoff spot this year and hopefully making a little run. So this team's been fun to watch the past couple weeks, and I hope they keep building on it. Great opportunity next week to improve their record to 5-4 on the road against the Panthers. Tough opponent, couple players there that we know pretty well. So it's going to be a fun one. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys Wednesday night.
Thanks for listening to this edition of the Patriots Drive podcast. Follow us on social media to stay up to date with all things New England Patriots. Make sure you tune in to the next episode and check out patriotsdrive.com for more great content.
We're on to Cincinnati.